Abel Weaver Garr was the grandfather of Phyllis May Garr. He passed away before she was born. She never knew her father or her grandfather. The Garr family is best known for their life at Antelope Island in the Great Salt Lake. However, when Abel's father, Fielding Garr, died in 1855, Brigham Young encouraged Fielding's sons to move their livestock off the island and locate in Cache Valley where they could be of service with the church cattle there. In August of 1855, they brought their cattle off the islands on rafts. The Fielding sisters took the father's lot in Salt Lake City after his death, and the sons took the cattle. Their mother had died previously in 1844 in Nauvoo, Illinois. Abel and his brothers, John Turner, William Henry, and Benjamin Franklin, were some of the finest horsemen in Utah Territory. Known as the Garr Boys, they were successful ranchers, scouters, and cowboys. One Cache Valley historian wrote, "It is doubtful if there is any part or family group that came that early, 1855, and remained so continuously in the valley as the Garr Boys. They seem to have come in contact with practically every group that came into the valley from the ranching period and from then on for several years. They therefore stand out as the really early ranchers and herders of the valley." The Garr Boys helped establish the church's Elkhorn Ranch, later known as the Church Farm, and they were the earliest pioneers in the settlement of Millville. The Elkhorn Ranch, which became the social center for all the surrounding communities, was sold in 1877, and the proceeds used to endow the Brigham Young College at Logan. The Garr Boys also returned to Antelope Island in 1860 at the request of Brigham Young. This time the mission was to give a Western life sample of entertainment to a select party of prominent men that Brigham took there to witness the boys' fine horsemanship. Other noted horsemen took part as well, and it was said of them that there was not one of them but could ride a bucking horse bareback or a lariat, the wildest Mustang in the range. He married Laura Maria Pitkin in 1860. She became very ill and only lived 5 weeks. She got sick after going after furnishings for her house in Salt Lake. Abel donated the property for the Millville Cemetery, leaving a location for his young bride to be buried. In 1864, Abel married Eliza Ann Stevenson. They had 10 children, only 5 of whom lived to adulthood. After being called from the pulpit at the 1874 October General Conference, Abel served a mission to his early home in Indiana. In his lifetime, Abel served as trusted positions as a scout patrol leader and a captain of the cavalry and a Cache County militia. In the 1880s, Abel served as a trustee of the Millville School Board and was known for having the first mowing machine in Millville. Millville received the usual call to equip outfits and send to eastern points to help poor immigrants get to Utah. George Pitkin, Abel Garr, and Frederick Yates made several trips for immigrants. Abel Garr's son-in-law, H.A. Campbell, wrote of him, "He was a very spiritual-minded man. He with Henry Chandler built the Millville LDS Church, which now stands, 1954. During the years of 1864 to 1898, Abel was a prosperous farmer and stockman. He farmed around 100 acres of his own land, 40 acres of his brother John's land. He formed a partnership with Indian Jack, who cared for the cattle in the summer and assisted in feeding them in the winter months. He wasn't much of a talker, but a very fine man. I'll tell you what Abe used to do. No men ever went hungry around Abe Garr. At Christmas time, he would drive up to the farm and he would slaughter a beef and bring it down and hang it up to cool. And in the morning of Christmas, he would cut it up in pieces and drive around to the widows and poor people and deliver the beef to them. He did that repeatedly for years and years. Abe Garr wasn't much of a preacher. When we had our 70s meeting, he got through the meeting and paid his dues, laid down $5 and said, 'That's the way I preach.' He was one of God's noblemen, a charitable neighbor, and a loving husband and father. There was no person in need, but what if Abel Garr knew of it, he would come to the rescue with assistance. Abel had no bad traits. Every one of his associates would tell you that Abel's character was above reproach. Abel Garr died March 4th, 1909, leaving an estate valued at $16,000, including real estate, cattle, and horses.